What's going on, everybody? It's Joel here, and today we're going to be doing the review of the Reebok Nano 13 Froning. Alright, so I've had these shoes for just about a week now. I've used them for literally every single workout that I've done over the last week and more, just trying to live in these shoes as much as possible because I gotta be honest with you guys, I think a week is kind of a short time to turn around a review. With that being said, these shoes are based off of the Nano 13 platform, which is a shoe that I have used probably the most this year compared to all of the other training shoes that I have. The Nano 13 Froning is the Rich Froning Player Edition model for this year. We are on the 6th model, so we had the 614 Compete, the RF1, the Nano 10 Froning, the Nano 11 Froning, the 12 Froning, and now the 13 Froning. Every year the shoes are a lot different and they have their own little quirks and theme, but this is the first time that I think they really actually just tried to replicate some of the magic of one of the previous models, which was the Nano 11 Froning. Everybody loved that shoe, and till this day, if you watch Rich Froning's videos, he's still wearing these shoes. But before we get into the performance of the shoe, let's first talk about the construction. So immediately you're going to notice that we have the slip-on booty design again that was from the Nano 11 Fronings and the Nano 10 Fronings. Last year we had just a normal shoe and it was pretty forgettable. I think the slip-on design is one of the reasons why people love the shoe so much. The upper is comprised of a few different fabrics. We have like a micro suede that is textured around the vamp of the shoe. And like I said in my first impressions, it doesn't look like it would be breathable, but it actually is, and it's flexible. It's really comfortable. I am a fan of this upper. And around that, we have some overlays on the lateral side with a crosshatch pattern to give it structure in that area. And then we have some on the medial side as well. And then around the middle part of the shoe, you have what I'm going to say is probably pleather or synthetic leather. It's likely not real leather that connects the elastic strap across the middle and then kind of forms the vector. So some people call these the luchador masks, some people call them the orca. I'm going to say that either way, they're probably right because they kind of do have that look to them. I actually think that these shoes look pretty good, but some people hate this colorway. There is also a wheat kind of colorway, which is my favorite for sure. And then there's one that's like a black and pink and blue that I've seen on like some spy shots, but I have no clue when that one's coming out. So going back to the strap area of the shoe, we do have an elastic strap, which is kind of one of the features that has always been on the Rich Froning PE line, except for the Nano 12 Fronings for some reason. Whatever reason, they ditched it on that model. But that's one of the defining features because of the ability to just slip on the shoe and not have to tie it. That's kind of like, if you watch some of the older Rich Froning videos, he would just slip on his shoes. He'd actually have his laces completely undone and pulled out, and then he would still work out like that. So I'm glad that they brought the elastic strap back, but it also serves another purpose because you're supposed to take the little drawstring here, which was coined on the Nano 11 Froning, and you tuck the excess strap into that so it doesn't go flying all around. So like I said before, we do have the drawstring back, and whether you hate it, whether you love it, you have to accept the fact that there's going to be some weaknesses to the drawstring, and the main one is that it does not stay tight. So you'll cinch it in here, and then with some wear, pretty much just one lift, you can pull it out pretty easily. And you're just gonna waste time just tightening up, so I would just leave it there and not really worry about it too much. On the tongue, there's a little RFX3 detail there. At the pull tab, there's a little Reebok logo. Inside the ankle collar, it says Faith Family Fitness on one side, and then the other side, it has the Galatians 6:14. So cool little details there to, I think, just spice up the shoe or jazz up the shoe a little bit. And then also some cool little details on the insole, which is the same insole that you're gonna find on the normal Nano 13. It's an anatomically molded one. It's cushioned, but like the other Nano 13s, it's got a very slippery top. So depending on what socks you wear, it could be either really slippery or just a little bit slippery. And then on that it says, designed in Boston, validated in Cookville, and then it says Nano 13 Froning. Okay, so since this is a Nano 13 shoe, it still has the lift and run chassis. You can see it right here. It's got a cool little speckle to it, which gives it a little bit more character. And that runs to the midfoot of the shoe on both sides. And then there is a little like dome right there. You could see they put this little circle there so you know where it is. And that dome is supposed to like pop when you do running, but it's supposed to stabilize the heel when you do your lifting movements. Now, this does still have the float ride energy foam like all the Nano 13s. The outsole is the same as all other Nano 13s. Toe cap or toe bumper is still the same. The outsole compound is really nice and sticky. One of the best parts of these shoes, especially when you come from using shoes that don't have the greatest grip. Going to this is going to feel like you're stuck to whatever platform that you're on. This also does have the Rope Pro for rope climbing. Now, rope climbing is something that I have tested out extensively on the normal Nano 13, and I think it is one of the greatest rope climbing shoes that you can get right now, as in terms of both durability and traction, with the only problem being that it kind of wants to turn when it comes down the rope, which is pretty common for shoes that are pretty good rope climbing shoes. I did not even bother rope climbing in the Fronings for the sole reason that they're not going to stay on your foot. And these are probably going to be okay going up the rope, but just the fact that the normal Nano 13s turn and want to come off your foot already, coupled with the fact that these have a very loose fit around the ankle, you can already just assume that these are just not going to stay on your feet when you're rope climbing. But going back to the midsole of this shoe, it is that same 7mm drop that's on all Nano 13s. But what I will say feels different about the Nano 13 Froning, and this is very similar to the Nano Classic, is that the midsole on this shoe feels more flexible. It feels a little bit softer, and it feels overall just generally more comfortable than the standard Nano 13. It's not a world of difference. It doesn't feel like a completely different shoe. It's just a little bit different. And another great thing about these shoes is the fact that they weigh a little bit less than your normal Nano 13s. I weighed a size 10.5 in at 13 ounces or 369 grams. All right, so now when it comes to how these shoes fit, I'm gonna recommend that you go up at least half a size from your Nano 13 size. This is gonna kind of get a little confusing. If you had to size down your Nano 11 Fronings from your normal Nano size, then you're probably going to have to go with a full size up. Coming from the Nano 10s, you're gonna get the same exact size as your Nano 10s. Coming from your Nano 9s, you're gonna get a half size up. Coming from your Nano 11s and 12s, just normal Nano 11s and 12s, if you size those down, then you're probably going to have to go a full size up. If you did not size those down, then you're going to go a half size up. If you got the most recent Nano Classics, you're probably going to want to go with the same exact size as that. If you got the Nano 13 Adventures, you're probably going to want to go half a size up from those. Okay, so I hope that wasn't too confusing, but to sum it up, the Nano 13 Fronings do fit on the small and narrow side, and you're going to really notice that in the toe box of the shoe. If you're coming from the Nano 11 Fronings, the whole shoe in general is going to feel much more narrow than the Nano 11 Fronings, and I know a lot of people like the Nano 11 Fronings because of the wider fit. It's not quite there. It's not even close to there in the Nano 13 Fronings. These are even more narrow than just the normal Nano 13s. The toe box on these, while is not completely brutal, does take quite some time to break in and feel comfortable. Initially, when I first bought these shoes, I got them in a size 10 and they were really, really tight. Sent those back, got a size 10.5. When I got those in, still thought that they were really tight, but I couldn't send those back, so I just wore them, broke them in, and at this point in wearing the shoes, I think that they are now comfortable, but they are still on the narrow side. Another thing that is going to be kind of off-putting for, or really off-putting for people, is that if you have collapsed arches, you are definitely going to feel pressure in the inner part of the shoe from the lift and run chassis, and that is just, that never quite goes away. It's there. It's not super uncomfortable. Like, I've learned to just accept it, and it's not too bad. It's worse on my right foot because I have a collapsed arch on my right foot, and on my left foot the pressure's there, but it's not bad at all. Just in general, my left fits better than my right because my right foot is just wider, and I do have a bunion on my right. Just keep that in mind when you buy these shoes, that they are just going to be more narrow than the Nano 11 Fronings. Another thing to be aware of is that the fit around the ankle is just never going to be good. It's a slip-on shoe, and there's the convenience of being able to slip your foot into a shoe, and you have to have some trade-offs with that. Mainly, the fit around the ankle is just not going to be great, and the drawstring just does not do a great job in securing that area. Now, there is a teeny tiny bit of heel slip, but it's actually not that bad. The only thing that you're really going to notice is that your foot is not super secure at the heel or the ankle of the shoe, but most people that are coming from like the Nano 11 Fronings are going to know that anyways. When it came down to running and bodyweight movements in the Nano 13 Fronings, I thought they weren't actually all that bad. I preferred to use these over the normal Nano 13s because they are a teeny tiny bit lighter. They are a teeny tiny bit more flexible as well, and they feel a slight bit more soft. So using these for, burpees and box jumps, double unders, and most noticeably, a ton of power snatches, my feet stayed relatively comfortable in these shoes for stuff that I would think should burn up my feet. And I'm going to credit that to the extra flexibility that is in the Nano 13 Froning compared to just like the normal Nano 13. Now, when I took these for a run test, I thought that they were mainly comfortable, and I think they're going to be plenty usable for all the stuff that you'd be doing in a typical CrossFit workout. I would not recommend to be running any more than maybe a couple miles in these, maybe just 1 mile. The fit around the ankle gets magnified when you're running for a longer distance. So I noticed that around 1,000 meters, the kind of like loose fit around the ankle became magnified, and the weight of the shoe was magnified. It made me want to like kind of adjust my step to make sure that the shoes didn't fall off my feet. And I know that they're not going to fall off my feet, but just the feeling of the heel kind of coming down at a different time as my forefoot just made me a little bit less sure of running in these shoes. I have mainly the same thoughts talking about the stability of these shoes. And even though they are a little bit more flexible, the fit's not that great around the ankle, and they feel a tiny bit softer. I still think that these are still just as good lifting shoes as the normal Nano 13. Anything that I would do in the normal Nano 13, I would still do in the Fronings, despite them feeling softer, more flexible, and having not as good a fit. The platform to me is just super familiar, and I would actually say that the platform on these is a better lifting platform than the Nano 11 Fronings. I no doubt prefer to lift in the Nano 13s than the Nano 11s. I feel like these are much more grounded. The contact area is flatter, the grip on these is better, and I think overall the shoe is wider. I think the cushioning in this shoe is also more responsive. There feels like there's a little bit less of it, but it's still plenty comfortable for your body weight movements. And the main thing that I prefer the Nano 13s over the Nano 11s for is the fact that the toe doesn't feel as floaty in this shoe as it does in the Nano 11 Fronings, which were not that bad, but they're still based off the Nano 11 platform, which had somewhat of a floaty toe. So if you watched my video a few days ago, I did the proven total in just this shoe. I hit a 355 5-rep back squat, had a 250-pound power clean. Before that, I had like a 255-pound power clean, 260 squat clean. So my numbers are still relatively high compared to just about any other trainer that I normally use. The Float Ride Energy midsole on the shoe is extremely responsive, and I never felt like it bogged down any of my Olympic weightlifting movements. My extension and pull on the Nano 13 Fronings always felt solid and actually felt better than when I was using my Metcon 9s back to back with these shoes. Now, the only thing about the shoe that's going to make you wary about lifting is the fit around the ankle, because it never feels secure. But once you get past the fact that these shoes are not going to fall off your feet in the middle of a lift, then you're going to be able to sling some weight pretty easily. Another thing that I really liked these for was barbell cycling. I thought that they were really responsive and also gave me good power delivery. Timing was really nice on these shoes as well. But the number one thing was that my feet stayed comfortable. I did a bunch of power snatches in a workout, and with the amount of bounding and flexing that you're doing with your feet, my feet stayed really comfortable in the Nano 13 Fronings. Okay, so the Nano 13 Fronings are going to retail for $150, only $10 more than the standard Nano 13. I honestly thought that these were going to cost more than they do, and I'm glad that they're not trying to gouge people. So if you're somebody that's coming from the Nano 11 Fronings, it's not guaranteed that you're going to like the Nano 13 Fronings. The Nano 11 Fronings are still one of the best training shoes of all time. And the things that they do better than the Nano 13 Froning are that they are lighter, they're better for bodyweight movements, they are also wider, and they're just overall, I think, more comfortable of a shoe. The Nano 13 Fronings, to me, seem like they're trying to emulate that formula, but not copy it 100%. These shoes do fit a little bit tighter, and I think they did that on purpose, because it is a slip-on shoe and they need it to, hug your foot and fit better, but it really doesn't fit all that great anyways. But the things that I like about the Nano 13 Fronings is the fact that these are just, there's no question about it, the better lifting shoe. The ground contact is much better. It's easier to get planted in these shoes, and I think the Float Ride Energy in these is better than it is on the Nano 11 Fronings. Now, if you're looking just for a workout performance shoe, then I would probably say you want to skip on the Nano 13 Fronings and just get the normal Nano 13s, because objectively they're gonna be a better competition or serious training shoe, just mainly because of the fit. You're really buying the Nano 13 Fronings because of a couple things. One, obviously you're probably a fan of Rich Froning and you like his player edition shoes, you want to support him. That's going to be the first reason. And the second reason is just the fact that these have a slip-on design and they're just a little bit more convenient and comfortable in that sense. Whether you like them better than the Nano 11 Fronings, that's completely up to you. There's no right or wrong answer. I would probably want to work out in the Nano 13 Fronings more, but I would rather wear the Nano 11s more on the daily in comparison to this shoe, because they're just more comfortable. So if you are somebody that likes Rich Froning, or you wanted the slip-on design and you weren't so mad about the trade-offs that come along with the slip-on design, then I highly recommend that you check out the Nano 13 Fronings. If you guys have any questions about these shoes, feel free to leave them in the comment section. And as always, guys, please hit that like button, subscribe, and thanks for watching.